Every month I say the same thing. Can you believe it's February already? Can you believe that other month is gone already? Well, I'm not sure that was what way I was going with that, but that was our month of outrageous abundance. So what do you mean? Yes. And this is our month of bodacious love. Don't you love that word, bodacious? Yes. Bodacious love. Bodacious. You have to say it with attitude. Bodacious is a combination of the words bold and audacious. And we come up with bodacious. Can you imagine having bodacious love? Unconditional love? Bodacious meaning daring, bold, challenging, brave. I like bold. I like daring. And can we have bodacious love? I don't know how we dwell in the land of plenty without bodacious love, right? We got to be able to love unconditionally. It does not matter whether our love is returned. It does not matter if there are setbacks. It does not matter if there's conflict. It does not matter whether there's anything. We open our hearts and we love unconditionally. That's the goal. That's our intention. And so today, my topic is disarming our hearts. Disarming our hearts. Let's take a breath on that. Disarming our hearts. Because, you know, there's so much thicket. I love that word. That's where I got it from, Howard Thurman. There's so much thicket in which our hearts get caught over and over and over again. And there are things coming at us from all sides all the time. And we have to be in a place where we are just ready to open our hearts and let go of whatever comes our way and just go with the flow and go with God always. And that's what it means to disarm our hearts, when we allow our hearts to be that dwelling place for God. When we allow our hearts to be open, when we allow ourselves to be available, then our hearts can be dwelling places for God. And when that's happening, there's no armament to be had. Because the only need for armament around our hearts is fear. It comes up because of fear. Fear of loss, fear of change, fear of competition, fear of lack, fear of all kinds of stuff, fear of the other. And we only get into that otherness when we get into that place of thinking that we are separate. As I always say, the only thing that ever needs to be healed is our sense of separation from God. And when we're feeling separate from God, then we're feeling separate from each other. And when we're feeling separate, all kinds of stuff comes up. All kinds of stuff comes up. There's no way to be separate and have any kind of love, let alone bodacious love, right? So what we want to do is just let go of all, be willing to let go of all that stuff that would arm our hearts. And when our hearts are armed, we start to build walls. We start to erect walls, and we start to erect walls of judgment, of otherness, of all kinds of resentments and grudges and all kinds of stuff, that we erect those walls, and it keeps them over there and us over here. But the thing about it is, when we erect those walls, us will be behind the wall. We'll be all walled in while we keep them over there. And so it's incumbent upon us to look at the places that we are walling ourselves in, walling ourselves off, keeping ourselves separate, allowing those things that happen in our lives and in our experiences to just be stuff. Just stuff. And we know that we can breathe our way through stuff. We know that we can be in a place of knowing and sensing and feeling the presence of God in every situation in which we find ourselves. We can know that God is right where we are always, and we are always in that presence of God. That presence is always in us. We're always one with that presence. And when we know this truth, we're always one with love. And then when we're one with love, that's when we get to love out bodaciously. We can love bodaciously no matter what happens, no matter what the occasion, no matter what the situation, no matter what the circumstance. And so that's where we want to be, in that place where we can Was it Jay-Z that brushed it off? Whatever it is, you just brush it off. Don't you love how cool I am? I don't even know the kids still use that word, cool. I tickle myself sometimes. No, I think it's down. How down with the program I am. Oh, that's not. Okay, I'll stick with cool. But anyway, I don't know where that came from. We're talking about loving bodaciously. We're talking about disarming our hearts. We're talking about taking a deep breath and being in the flow, for we know that God is the flow. We're talking about being in that place of pure love, not the emotion, but the essence of God. For God is love. Emerson says that God and love are synonymous. God and love are synonymous. God is love. God is not loving. God is love itself. And so the thing for us to do is to bring ourselves into alignment with love itself always, so that we can keep our hearts clear, and allow them to be that dwelling place. And that means we don't have to fight with each other. We don't have to compete with each other. We don't have to be upset with each other. We don't have to arm ourselves. That doesn't mean that we don't have disagreements, but we can disagree without being disagreeable. Think about that. That's one of the things I learned as in my legal training as a lawyer. You have to learn to disagree. We disagree all the time, but we aren't disagreeable. So we can even be angry and still come from a place of love in our anger, expressing anger, even with the place of an open heart. Because you're angry, because you're upset, because there's a disagreement, because whatever, we don't have to close out anyone or anything. We don't have to hide behind fear and then go behind that wall. And that's what I'm encouraging us to do today, to disarm our hearts. We can have our own personal disarmament. And we hear so much in our society today, and there's so much race-conscious belief in separation today, in fear, in discord, that love becomes more suspect than fear. Love becomes more suspect than fear. When someone is being really loving, sometimes you step back and wonder what's wrong with them. Wonder what they want. Wonder why she's being so nice to me. You know, think about that. It's a surprise to us sometimes when we hear so much, we're so bombarded, as I said, by all the stuff, that it's a surprise to us when love shows up. Just for love, just for its own sake, for love. God shows up for its own sake, just for God. And so the things I'd like for you to carry in mind today, keep in mind today, is that disarming our hearts has to begin with each of us. It has to begin with each of us. That's how we, just like the song says, let there be peace on earth and let it begin with me. Let there be disarmament and let it begin with me. Because the peace can't happen unless our hearts are clear and we are willing to live in peace and be that peace. And when we are willing to do that, when we're willing to have open hearts, when we are willing to brush it off, let it go, take a breath, take a step back, and then move back into the truth that we know, that there's only one power, there's only one presence, there's only one mind, there's only one life. That life is God's life, that life is my life. That life is perfect, that life is your life. And every time I look at you, I'm seeing God. I may have to look a little bit harder sometimes. You may have to look a little bit more closely. But we know the truth is that we can look beyond the appearance to the truth. And that's what it means to disarm our hearts, to be willing to look beyond the appearance to the truth. Because when we look beyond the appearance, we're seeing God. When we look beyond the appearance, we're seeing love. And when we're willing to do that, we're practicing bodacious love. And that's where we want to be, again, as we live in this land of plenty. And as we live in this land of plenty, we know that, things come up, storms come through, dust storms come through, tumbleweeds, debris is left behind. That's what happens to our hearts, and we have to be willing to take a breath, to step back, to forgive when we need to forgive, to release our judgment when we need to do that, to apologize if we need to do that, to accept an apology when we need to do that, to do those things that will bring us back into alignment with the all that is, rather than going to battle, rather than fighting, rather than wanting to really do battle. And so remembering that disarmament begins with me. How can I disarm my heart in this moment? Do I need to disarm my heart in this moment? That's the first thing we get to. And then the next thing is, how do I do that? And so just keeping that in mind as we go through our daily lives. And we have an opportunity almost every minute of every day to do that. And we have to be mindful, we have to be present as things come up. The second thing is to remember is that no one ever wins a fight. Let's take that in. No one ever wins a fight. That's an essay by Howard Thurman. No one ever wins a fight. And he tells the story of coming from school and being bullied by a boy who was larger and taller than he was and who had brothers, and finally he just got into a fight with him. And he says he made him eat dirt. And so when he got home, to his grandmother, she looked at him and said, "No one ever wins a fight." And he said, "But I beat him." And she said, "Yes, but look at you." He had a swollen eye, his shirt was torn, the buttons were off his shirt, and he had a hole in the knee of his pants. And she said, "Look at you. You beat him. And one day you will understand that no one ever wins a fight." And he says that he went on through his life, and he got to see 2 world wars, and he got to see many, many fights. And he began to understand what that really means, that no one ever wins a fight. Because we don't ever come out of a fight unscathed. We don't ever come out of a fight unscathed. We can take credit for winning. Just think about 2 boxers. One of them holds that glove up and holds that hand up, and he can't open his eye. And his face is all puffy, and he won the fight. No one ever wins a fight. And so when we can avoid that fight, when we can find another way, that's when we get a chance to really practice love and bodacious love, unconditional love. We can love just for the sake of loving. Our reason for being here on this planet is to express God's love, to be vehicles for the expression and the full expression of God's love. And God's love will show up according to our own uniqueness, according to what it is we do, according to who it is we are. That's how God's love shows up. And we have to be those places and spaces through which God's love can show up. And we can't do that if our hearts are blocked. We can't do that if we're holding on to stuff. We can't do that if we're judging. Let's let our judgment be mirrors. Let our judgment be mirrors, because what we're judging is what Ernest Holmes says, what you're looking at is what you're looking with, is what you're looking for is what you're looking with. And I'm saying what you're looking at is what you're looking with. So when we're seeing judgment, the question is, where's the judgment in me? Where's the judgment in me? Whatever it is we're criticizing, where is that in me? Whatever it is we're condemning, where is that in me? And so when we can ask those questions and recognize that everything is a mirror for our healing, other people come up to mirror our shortcomings and our good stuff. But usually the shortcomings are the ones we see the most. And we recognize that that's a mirror for me, for my healing, for my growth, for my expansion, for my opportunity to be at one with love, to be at one with love. So keeping that in mind, no one ever wins a fight. Let the third thing be, it just went out of my head. Let the, let the third thing be to dare to choose love. Dare to choose God. Dare to choose God. Dare to choose love. Sometimes it takes a lot to choose love. Sometimes it takes a lot not to fight back. Sometimes it takes a lot to love in spite of. Sometimes it takes a lot, and that's what we're called up to do. That's what we do in our spiritual practice. We deepen in spirit. We deepen in our connection to the all that is. We deepen in our awareness of the love that is all around us, that completely surrounds us, that completely indwells us always. And as we deepen, then we increase our capacity to love. We increase our capacity to forgive. We increase our capacity to live the life that we were created to live. When we can choose God, it takes a lot of trust. It takes a lot of trust. It takes a lot of trust to choose God sometimes over choosing to fight back, to be upset, to close our hearts, to walk away. We have to make a conscious choice to step into oneness, to step into oneness. Howard Thurman continues in that essay with, no one ever wins the fight, and he's wondering if that means that the weapon one chooses determines who one is. A person is known by the weapon he chooses. And he said to choose not to fight is a weapon that one chooses in a fight. We can choose not to fight. Do you know how disarming that is? When somebody's all geared up for a fight and you agree with them? When somebody's all geared up for a fight and you're saying, okay, you're not fighting? That's a powerful thing. That not only disarms your heart, it disarms the other person's heart. Because when we disarm our heart, we create a space for that to happen for somebody else also. And so just look at the areas in your life where you can disarm your heart and allow someone else the opportunity to do the same thing. When you can let go of the petty stuff and the big stuff. Where are the areas in which you can forgive? Where are the areas in which you can just open up and say, you know what, it's okay. And where are the areas where you can't look at it and say it's okay, but you know that you can walk through this because you're always walking in the love of God. That through my practice, through my meditation, through my prayer, through my journaling, through my chanting, whatever your spiritual practice is, this is a thing that helps us to deepen in spirit. This is the thing that helps us to deepen in spirit. And so Thurman closes out that essay with that love, of all the weapons, love is the most deadly and devastating. And few there be who will place their fate in its hands. Love is the most deadly and devastating of all weapons. And few there be who will place their fate in its hands. I invite you to place your fate in the hand of love. Place your fate in the hand of God. Place your fate in that place of oneness in which all things are made new, no matter what they are. All things are made new in God. All things are made new in love. All things are made new as we open our hearts to the newness, as we open our hearts to the oneness, as we open our hearts to that bodacious love. And that's what we want to do, so I invite you to take a breath now. And let's just go within in prayer, just knowing that there's only one love. Just knowing that there's only one life, just knowing that there's only one power, just knowing that there's only one presence, just knowing that there's only one breath. It's all God. This onlyness is perfect. This onlyness is my very life right here, right now. There's no other. There's only one of us here, each expressing God according to our own uniqueness, each expressing love according to our own uniqueness. We just open our hearts and allow that love to express in and through and as each one of us this day. As we do this, I speak the word for us in this moment, that we each and all set our intention, make a commitment, and are able to practice bodacious love, to live and love bodaciously, boldly, each and every moment of each and every day. And the more we do this, the more we're able to let go of those things that don't serve us. We let go of the slights. We let go of the pain. We let go of the harm. We let go of the hurt. We let go of old stories and old beliefs and all that stuff. We let go. And we open our hearts wide. And we dare to choose love. We dare to choose God. We dare to choose healing. We dare to choose oneness. This is where our healing is, in oneness. And I'm so grateful to speak this word for each of us this day, a word of oneness. As I open this circle of prayer, I pause momentarily so you may speak the names of anyone you'd like held in prayer. You may speak their names silently or loud, and you may speak them now. And so for all those whose names were spoken here this day, I'm just knowing that God is right where each of them is, blessing and keeping them. We speak a special word of blessing for Freedom as she just continues on her path, for her family, for her friends, for her loved ones, as we release her to her greater yet to be. I speak a special word of blessing for Paul's friend, R.L., who made his transition last night, and for Paul and his wife, and for R.L.'s family. I'm just knowing perfect healing and wholeness, knowing that God is in the midst of the pain, God is in the midst of the loss, God is in the midst of everything. This word goes out to anyone on this planet needing a prayer this day. Just knowing that God is. That's all we ever need to know, is that God is. And so in this moment, I say thank you, Father, Mother God. Thank you, infinite presence. Thank you, Divine Mother. I'll just allow it to be. And so it is.